Okay, so we're gonna try this one more time because we've had some problems filming. How can not knowing what's next be one of the most horrible things for some people? How can it like really just destroy everything and be causing frustration for a lot of people? And you don't even know it. So a lot of people have fear of what's next and all those kind of things I understand. But when you understand how something hurts you, I believe the quote goes something along the lines of like, just being able to to be able to find the problem, you've already solved half of it by clearly identifying the problem. But what people don't realize is that people who have a fear of like what's next and they don't know they don't have the fear of what's next, they often find themselves in situations they don't like, around people they don't like, in places they don't like, because the familiar of where they are, even though they don't like it and they can't stand it, and they know they should be out of that situation a long, long time ago. Maybe you should have already been out of that situation, you know it. But the fear of the unknown, like especially if you're a planner, I've realized people who really work in corporate really have that like, making steps. It has to be ordered, line up our we have everything mapped out. And when you don't know what's next, it's better just to stay in what you know because you feel more organized. And I say all this because tonight at 7, we are having our clarity masterclass. But this week we're going to be talking about what is next. Not what is next for me, what is next for you. Everybody has something that's going on next. But when we can identify like, okay, well, what's next? Okay, let's figure out what's next. Well, where do I start? Where are you at now? Like there's just a few questions that can really get you clear. So many times the frustration that people have is because of knowing they're not supposed to be where they are. And I know there's the quote of like, well, you're where you're supposed to be. I get it. But at the same time, you know you're not supposed to be there. There's a difference. Like you're supposed to be in the place where you are right now of knowing you're not supposed to be there. And the frustration you're having is because you have not, I guess the word, even though it's cliche, is surrendered to the fact of the next thing, maybe unknown, but at the same time, the next thing might be one of the greatest things that you couldn't plan. It's like being mad at yourself in 1985 for not thinking of the iPhone. Phones weren't even a thing then. Cell phones didn't even exist then. And it's the same with how we think sometimes. We have to remember, you don't know as much. You can't know as much now as you're going to know in 4 years from now. Just like some people can feel so bad. Let me make sure my mic is gone. Yeah, we're good. Yesterday, 26-minute video, no audio. Just like we have to look at the past, some of the things we've done in the past, and we sometimes feel bad about it. But sometimes we have to realize what we did in the past, we did, as long as you, for me, I found a lot of peace in this. When I realized that I did the best I could with what I knew. And then when what I knew changed, that's when it was just like, okay, now if I don't change, like some of you guys have gotten to the point where now you know better, you've seen better, and you know that it's possible to do better, but then you just choose to stay in the discomfort of familiarity just because familiar feels good. But at the same time, familiar doesn't have to be a good thing. Think about it. Some people like familiar because it's easy to control. Some people lead their life with certainty. And certainty means like, I'm sure, I want to be sure. We all have that in some point in our life, but we have to understand like, well, okay, you want to be sure. You want to be sure that you're not alone, so you're going to stay in a situation you don't like, one that you should have ended a long time ago. Me talking to myself 2 years ago. Because it's familiar and you feel comfortable. But what about what's next? Some of you guys have no idea. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about some of the greatest moments that ever happened to you. Just think of some of the greatest moments you've ever had in your life. Greatest nights of your life. Let's go there. And let me ask you a question. Did you plan it that way? And even if you planned it that way, did it end up exactly how you wanted to, or was it a little bit better? Better in ways you didn't see, maybe. You know, we can't see from the 3rd floor out the window as far as we can see from the 10th floor out the window. And as we keep moving up, we gotta respect the fact that I couldn't have seen it from where I was. You can't read the label from inside the jar. And I tell all of you this because what's next matters. What's next matters. And I could tell you guys, well, you know, what's next? Just change your belief to, you know, a simple belief you guys could try on for style is something along the lines of the next step is always shown. It's a belief that I like to kind of imprint in people that I talk to and work with. The next step is always shown to you. But I don't know what to do with the gym. What the gym is not the next step. Of course it's the next step. I'm sitting here overweight. No. Take it from, I'm learning software development, learning to create apps, and I'm also learning quality control. And in all these things, it's all about steps, order. If you're sitting on the couch overweight or sitting on the couch not liking the way your body looks, the next step for you is not to sign up for a gym or even go to a gym or even look up a workout. The next step for you is to stand up. That's the next step. And trust the next step is going to be shown to you. You know, my perfectionist, the clients that I work with that are perfectionists are the ones that struggle the most with this. Because perfect means I get it all right every time. There's no room for mistake or error. That's kind of like the classic. So what happens when you're like that is that what you end up doing is you just end up kind of doing nothing because you don't want to make a mistake. So like when what's next is not shown to you or what's next is not clear for you, you kind of just say, well, I'm not sure about what's next, so I'm just gonna stay here. And I know some of you, I know some of you all, I wish you could see it, that some of you guys are meant for so much more. Like, and I truly mean that, meant for so much more than you can even imagine. You know, some of the greatest things in my life, and even more importantly, just like they say, it's not the book you read, it's the book that book leads you to. Like some of the greatest moments in my life were set up by something that I didn't see planned, you know, and that put me on a whole nother path for my life. You know, I think I was 22 years old. I just graduated college. I was the player of the year, player of the conference, first team All-American. Like I was a great player in college, but nothing was working out. I couldn't find a team because they didn't want to take people from small schools. And I ended up in the last minute, which I actually turned down in the beginning, was I had got an offer to go to a team that was only an hour and a half away, a semi-pro team that was an hour and a half away from where I played. And I was like, no, I want to go to NBA or minimum try to go overseas. But I ended up just saying, you know what? I'm supposed to go to this team. Let's see if they want me. I'll go to the tryout, whatever. And actually, I remember thinking you had to pay $100 to go to the tryout. And I didn't want to go to the tryout. And the coach of that team, who was a friend with my college coach, said he can just come. He doesn't have to pay the fee. And that was one of the reasons that I came there to that. Because I was one of the few people who came from outside of the state. But it was one of those things like, I don't know. I guess the next thing to do is go to this tryout. I had been to tryouts before. I got scammed before. And I was living for I think it was a 5 or 6 month period. I was living off of $953. That was the check I got for a lady who made a left turn in front of me when I was on my scooter and made me wreck my scooter. Thank goodness I was fine. And that's what I had to live off of and have that gift. And I went there to show up and then played for that team for 6 months or 5 months. And then the team was running out of money, only 2 games left. And I'm like, well, what's next? I gotta just keep playing. The next game is what's next. And then all of a sudden I get a Facebook message. I remember it was Valentine's Day. Shout out to Angelique. That was a rough Valentine's Day. And Wayne for helping me at that restaurant. It was a message like, are you still available? Are you available to come to Australia? I think the message said. That one message changed my whole life. I almost threw up in the restaurant when I got the message, as I remember looking at my BlackBerry under the table and like, I think they're serious. And I was like, let's jump on a call. We jumped on a call and they were serious. It was a Thursday. It was a Wednesday that this happened. It was a Wednesday. And I think by Friday, I played in my last game. That Saturday, I had everything packed up and put in my car, drove back to Cleveland, Ohio, 6.5 hour drive, Left so much stuff in my apartment, my bed, my television, everything, left it there just for my roommate to have. And by Monday, I was on a flight to Australia. Never saw it coming. But just followed what was next. Like the next thing is shown. What is the next thing? I think it's in The Power of Now that Eckhart Tolle talks about. He's like, I actually have the book. It was a gift. It was given as a gift to me. I haven't read it yet, but I remember I was in a program and the lady quoted it saying, just find the next thing that you should do. The next thing in that moment. What is the next thing in that moment? Because the next thing in that moment might just be get up, go for a walk, right? Open your notebook. That's the exact next thing you should do. It's not to write down, brainstorm this list of things you could do. Maybe that very next thing is to open your notebook. Take the pen top off or open your iPad to the Notes app. Good Notes, shout out. Or Notability. Maybe that's the next thing. So tonight we're going to really be breaking it down to let you guys see that you've always kind of known what was next, and just the fear kind of stops you because you're like, well, I don't want to be scared of anything. So your brain will make you not scared of it. What it'll do is it'll talk you out of wanting it. That's one of the easiest tricks. Easiest tricks in the world. Make you not even want it anymore. It's one of the things that they did to like train dogs. Like what they did is they realized dogs want everything. They wanted to go for a walk, they wanted to run, they wanted to do all this stuff. And they realized that if they could go, I think it was like 6 days or something without feeding the dog, then go another week without feeding the dogs only wanted one thing. They didn't want to fight. They didn't want to run. They didn't want to play. They wanted food. That's it. And the enemy will do that to you. Who's the enemy? The devil, whatever you look at as the enemy. The opposing thing, which sometimes is you. Just like when I believe it was a quote from a Navy SEAL. The Navy SEAL's wife asked a question. The Navy SEAL's wife said, I'm not strong enough, honey. And the Navy SEAL guy says, come on, honey. And she's like, and she starts crying. And he starts hugging her. And she's like, I don't know, how do you defeat an enemy that's stronger than you? And she's crying into his arms, and he looked at her, and he said, you break his will to fight. And for some people, that's what's been happening to them. Maybe that's what's been happening to you. The enemy has broke your will to fight for the dream that you know you've had for a long time. It's convinced you don't want it anymore. Easiest tactic in the book. Convince you don't want it anymore, now they ain't got to deal with you. You're done. You're just going to do whatever, you're going to do who knows what. Whatever pays the bills. Or whatever society is going with on that day. So tonight, we're diving in. Check my mic in. Yep, we're good. Tonight, we're diving into what is next. We'd love to have you there to join us. It's always short and sweet. I used to think they were going to be like an hour. Sometimes when I do my programs, for example, like a paid program, some of those classes are like an hour and a half. We go 2 hours sometimes when you add Q&A. But these are nice and short and sweet. I'm not trying to take over all your Friday nights. I got big plans tonight, so I'm definitely not trying to do that. We do 20, 25 minutes to get you clear. We'll do some Q&A and to kind of help you to realize what is next for you. And the most interesting thing is you finish this knowing like, oh my gosh, of course. That's the feeling that I love for people to have, is of course. Not like, oh, that's what I have to do. Oh, I knew what the whole, no. Just, yeah, of course. Of course that's what I have to do. I've been looking at it and dreading that for a long time, but it's what I'm supposed to do. So with that being said, I'm actually going to leave, get me some food. I appreciate you all. I love you all, and I'll see some of you later today, later tonight, in our little Clarity Masterclass.